party that by all accounts has lost their way, their common sense, and the ride-or-die followers of the party seems to have gone the wayside of critical or even rational thinking at this point. Everyone all excited about Kamala Harris as vice president. Well, here's a bill that she introduced just last week that nobody talked about.
Senator Kamala Harris, now Joe Biden's vice presidential running mate, co-sponsored a bill in the U.S. Senate that would force schools to allow biological males to compete in women's sports. The so-called Equality Act, which would amend the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to make sexual orientation and gender identity protected characteristics under federal anti-discrimination law, would effectively destroy girls' sports.
So basically what that says is, if I'm a guy in high school and I identify as a girl, well, then I should be able to play track as a girl, basketball as a girl, volleyball as a girl.
And what's important here again is that trans rights do matter, again, and trans rights are under fire always. But taking advantage, once again, of a situation, of a plight that doesn't affect you in order to create divisiveness not only detracts from the issue, but it delegitimizes it. This is a way to use real-life issues to try and push an agenda that, unfortunately, is not going to benefit anybody.
So you look at that and you say, okay, well, Kamala Harris, all right, well, she's got one bill there. Look, these guys believe that shutting down America and government mandates are the way things should be. And your rights, well, it's not about your rights. Just listen to Joe Biden here.
Every single American should be wearing a mask when they're outside.
Outside, Killian. Outside, he wants us to wear masks.
Ridiculous.
For the next 3 months at a minimum. Every governor should mandate mandatory mask wearing. The estimates by the experts are it will save over 40,000 lives in the next 3 months. 40,000 lives. The people act responsibly. And it's not about your rights, it's about your responsibilities as an American.
Who think taking over cities and defunding our police force is a good idea. Now, Portland is a mess. You don't even see all that's going on there unless you really do a little digging. Portland is a mess. Under their Democratic mayor, their Democratic governor, Kate Brown. I lived in Oregon for 6 years prior to coming back to Nevada. She's a tool. And after listening to this Democratic convention this week and doing my research on Biden, man, I cannot, I will not, I would not vote for this career politician who hasn't had a good career. He doesn't have a good track record. He doesn't have a clue, but can do no wrong in the eyes of the predatory media. Listen to this.
They're going to put you all back in chains.
He's making an historic reference he may not have been right to do, but it certainly wasn't malignant.
I'm not even sure it had anything to do with race.
Let's say Trump said that.
Right.
Okay. Imagine if Trump said that. They wouldn't be defending him.
Absolutely not.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
You're going to honestly tell me that when you watch this guy touch little girls, it doesn't creep you out.
Little hands-on treatment from the vice president.
Everybody knows he's a touchy-feely guy, and he's just very friendly. He is. He was reportedly comforting her after she fell on ice.
He's spreading love.
If Donald Trump were to do the same thing, they would destroy him. So the narrative of the media has turned this country into a fear-based society of followers and not leaders, because clearly this guy right here is not a leader. Listen to this.
Play the radio. Make sure make sure you have the record player on at night. The phone.
Still, he is a master of the quick recovery.
Make sure the kids hear words.
These qualities are almost endearing to voters.
We choose truth over facts.
They find him more believable because he makes missteps every so often.
All right, Chuck. Thank you very much.
All right. It's Chris, but anyway.
Chris.
We went over the string of lies this guy shelled out in 1986 during his presidential run. I won't beat that horse to death. That he plagiarized, and that got him known as the great imitator. And that hasn't even changed since 1986, because this is all recent stuff here.
He's a noted plagiarist. He told people he was arrested in South Africa trying to see Mandela. He wasn't. He told people he was shot at in Iraq. He wasn't. He told people he marched in the civil rights movement. He didn't.
If you can't see through the media's clear favoritism towards this man of whom is running, if he was running against any other Republican president, wouldn't stand a chance, then you're not paying attention. These arbitrary decisions are being made, and they're really starting to really piss me off. Every weekend now, I see thousands upon thousands of people gambling and drinking and smoking and not social distancing right here in Reno, week in and week out. And yet, I can't go to church or support my local bar owner. Yeah, Donnie, I'm talking about you. You too, Les. JJ. Who'd have thought bar owners and churches would make a great team? I do. You know why, Killian? Because I'm a Raiders fan. I'm a Raider fan. We could put a team together from any parts of the U.S. Oh, and they're here in Vegas now. And guess what, Killian? I can't go to a game. This last week, we saw the Mountain West Conference, including the Nevada Wolfpack, Wyoming Cowboys, postpone their fall seasons. Fall sports in Nevada also postponed by the NIAA. All the high schools postponed fall sports. A move that's been highly criticized and also embraced by some. It's a hot topic. The split's nearly 50-50 by all accounts, at least in my reality. So with America waiting anxiously for this country's most popular sport, by far, American football, and the NFL to make a move, well, let's talk to the biggest name in sports and have him give us some insight as to what to expect. Bob Costas. He was asked, when do you think people will watch?
A lot of people will watch. I think the numbers will be high at the outset, if only out of curiosity. And then we'll see how long it sustains. I think that people are willing to grant that these are unique, one-off circumstances. And if this is the best that the various leagues can do, at least they'll have some live sports and there'll be some degree of interest in it, but also some concern as to whether they can get all the way from one side to the other without the coronavirus derailing them.
And many people are calling this a return to normalcy, but is it really normalcy, or are we just grasping at straws here?
You can look at it that way. Current sports instead of archival stuff that we've had to content ourselves with over the last few months, that seems like a return to normal. On the other hand, everything about it will shout abnormal. No one in the stands. You're watching a baseball game. The manager has to come out with a mask if he wants to talk to the pitcher. If the ball goes around the horn, they have to throw the ball out of play. And there will inevitably be reports of some players testing positive and having to be sidelined. So in a certain sense, it's going to be a reminder of just how abnormal these times are.
And what about the broadcasters? It's going to be very odd to call a game. No one in the stands. And I'm a sportscaster. I can't imagine it.
And the broadcasters may not physically be there. In some cases, they'll be in the booth in the empty stadium. In other cases, they may well be doing it from some kind of studio someplace off a monitor, or even from their own homes or apartments, depending upon how the stations or networks decide to play it. And it cannot be a standard play-by-play situation. When you're up there in that booth, you're looking at the monitor, yes, but you're also looking out at the field or the court or the rink, whatever it might be. You move your head from side to side, try to take it all in. That's not going to be possible now for a broadcaster. And also the absence of crowd sound. You just intuitively raise your voice when the crowd reacts. You hear it in your headset and you react that way. If we're talking about television instead of radio, you auto lay out for several seconds at a time. But now that might seem like an eternity. 5, 6, 7 seconds of completely dead air. We'll have people reaching for the remote saying, wait a minute, where's the volume? Oh, yeah, there is no crowd sound. So it's going to be a work in progress type thing. None of us have experienced it before. We'll just have to figure it out as we go.
Do you think the NFL is going to move forward with this season?
The NFL, I think, faces the most severe challenge. The size of the rosters, the nature of the game, contact, and a lot of it on every play. And they play in the fall and winter when the best educated guess is that there might be another coronavirus surge. So I think they face a very difficult task. Every one of these leagues has an abundance of medical advice. They're proceeding with an abundance of caution. They have 100-page protocols, and it's hard to believe that everyone will be able to adhere to all those protocols 100% of the time. But even with best practices and best intentions, there are a whole lot of needles to thread here, and it's just a fingers crossed situation that they can if I can use another metaphor, that they can complete this tightrope walk and make it from one end of the ravine to the other.
The NFL yesterday had all of their tests, their positive COVID tests, retested, and guess what? They all came back negative. We are digging into that. That's breaking news. I don't know what's going on there, but we can't trust these numbers, Killian, at all.
One of the greatest American heroes, in my opinion, to have ever lived, George Carlin, spoke on. He was very vocal about his opinions on the media and the government, and he basically said, if you believe what they're telling you, you're asleep. To quote that man, he said, you know why they call it the American dream? Because you'd have to be asleep to believe it.
They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. And by the way, it's the same big club they use to beat you over the head with all day long when they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged. And nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hard-working people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all. Man. You know? And nobody seems to notice, nobody seems to care. That's what the owners count on, the fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue dick that's being jammed up their assholes every day. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it.
So the U.S. Constitution guarantees us free exercise of religion, peaceable assembly, and that our property not be taken without due process. Yet, local governments recently have prohibited free exercise, banned assemblies, unless they support a cause in vogue with the government. And they've deprived us of our property by closing businesses from which we make money, which our employees and ourselves earn our livings. The U.S. Constitution exists to prevent governments at every level, local to federal, from impinging on our individual freedom. Implicit in the freedom our Constitution protects is the idea that individual citizens possess and should exercise the right of choice in decisions about when and where to go, with whom to associate, and whether or not to engage in commerce. I think more of us would if we were given the facts like this.
Well, the numbers you're getting about COVID deaths are way off the mark. The Conservative Review says the median age for people who die of COVID is 75 years old, and they say it's almost non-existent in younger people.
Since September, the common flu has infected 36 million Americans and killed an estimated 22,000.
The percentage of Americans not living in New Jersey or New York who've died of COVID, nursing home or not, 0.03%.
More than 10 million people worldwide fell ill with tuberculosis in 2018, and it killed 1.5 million.
Government officials claim they are protecting us from risk. But think about this for a minute. We take risk every day. driving a car.
38,000 Americans die every year in car accidents.
Nobody forces you to drive a car. Crossing the street. Nobody is forcing you to cross that street. Or even flying in an airplane. That's an inherent risk. All of which are everyday risks. Each person freely